everybody. I'm John Self. Welcome to Career Live. We're delighted to have you today, have you with us today, and we're going to be talking about something that's extremely important: job interviewing. Now, we've talked about this several times in the past, but today we're going to break it down in terms of how you should get prepared. So let's get busy. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat box, and we'll get to them as we go forward. So today, preparing for the job interview. This is one of the most important parts of the search. So don't be shy about asking questions. Questions, the dumb ones are the ones you don't ask, of course, but be sure that you put your questions in the chat box, and I'll try to get to them. If you want me to address them Friday on our Your Questions Live program, I'll be happy to do that. Just mention that. And if you want to go and schedule a call with me to discuss something you hear today, go to our website at johngself.com and schedule a free call. We're not going to sell you anything. Unlike a lot of people that you schedule free calls with, they're always just banging you over the head to buy something. Listen, I've been where you are. I understand you get worried about money, you get worried about spending money for stuff that people don't deliver. And any of us that are in the service business, we always worry about that we're delivering what we promise, and if we don't, my deal is you can cancel our membership at any time. We want to try to and meet your needs. And if we don't, we understand, and we're going to try to get better. So you can schedule a no obligation call, and we can answer your questions. We won't try to sell you anything. Okay, let's talk about what has to happen today in this market for you to be successful. First of all, you must be organized. This is really important, from having the tools necessary to conduct a search, internet connection, download some of the tools like Zoom, other programs, on your phone, your connecting abilities to tap phones and share business cards, a database. You need to be organized. You need to get the tools. Secondly, you must be disciplined. What does that mean, disciplined? Sounds like your parents talking to you. Well, discipline means that you must understand that it takes a lot of effort to be successful. And it means you've got to put in the time, you got to do the work, you got to do the things that you may not want to do. Calling people you don't really want to know. Putting yourself out there, risking being dissed, risking being ignored, rejected. Gosh, none of us like that. I mean, even the best salesmen in the world don't want to be rejected. But you have to put yourself out there. You must be disciplined to do the work you need to do. Now, what else does that mean? There's a second part to this question. Discipline means that you know what you want to do. You've identified targets for employment, where they are geographically and the name of the organization, and that you're starting to build relationships with people using LinkedIn in that organization. So the third thing you must do is you got to be the CEO of you. What does that mean? It means that you are accountable, and if the company doesn't succeed, it's your fault. If you don't get the job that you want, it's on you, okay? You have to do everything you can to be successful, whether it's doing your research as a chief marketing officer, whether it is your messaging as a branding officer, it is being accountable and getting things organized and doing the things that you must do to be successful in a job search. If you don't do those things, your job search is only going to take longer. It's only going to take longer. So somebody's got to be in charge. I think it's got to be you. Then thirdly, you must be the editor-in-chief of what you want to say, how and when you want to say it. So those are things that you must do in this process to be successful. So that's just setting the table. Now, let's build on that. To be successful, you must be positive and well prepared emotionally and mentally. This is really, really important. And if you want the slides, they'll be available following the post. And we also have some other tools we'll be sharing with our members. If you want to become a member, visit our website at johngself.com and click the member portal. Okay, in the morning, program your outlook. List the 3 things that you're grateful for. Establishing gratitude, being grateful, sets a positive tone for the day. If you start off in a grouchy mood, if you start off with a hangover from the previous night of, I failed again, I didn't get things done, I lost the job, I didn't get the job offer, I did a terrible job in the interview. Stop, time out. We've all been there. We have all been there. Me too. I'm as full of it as a Christmas turkey. I'm good at interviewing. I'm good at extemporaneous speaking. Not everybody is, but let me tell you something. I've blown it big time. Why? Because I didn't pay attention to certain things we're going to talk about in today's presentation. So in the mornings, I try to set the stage for my day, building my company, trying to serve people like you. And that is, I talk about the three things I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my wife. I'm grateful for the opportunity I have to serve others. I'm grateful for the experiences I've had. I am so grateful for the knowledge I can share. And we're trying to do it in a very cost-effective way for you. And I'm grateful for that. So there are all things, there are just tons of things you can be grateful for. Somebody once told me, he said, it was a CEO, and he said, well, what happens if you run out of things to talk about gratitude? And I kept thinking, man, oh man, you don't get it. And he didn't, and his career kind of fizzled at the end. Now, at bedtime, you've got to program your brain. What does that mean? Well, your brain, you go to sleep. Your brain stays up and has a conversation with you, and you may not be aware of it. So when you go to sleep, get ready to go to bed, be in a positive frame of mind. Think about the things that went right today. Build on those. It's not always going to be that way, but think about what did go right. Think about you're grateful at the end of the day. You're grateful for your wife. You're grateful for your partner. You're grateful for your spouse, your kids. You're grateful for the experience you've had. You're grateful that that you're in a position to keep searching and that you have the desire and the energy to be grateful at the end of the day and be positive about the following day. That puts your brain in a position to have a good conversation with yourself while you sleep. Now, during the day, program your growth. Keep a journal of ideas and necessary follow-up actions. Take every opportunity to enhance your story. Rehearse. When I'm doing a presentation, my spouse used to laugh at me because she'd come into my study and I'd be standing there thinking about how I wanted to pitch a hospital system or how I wanted to pitch a client for a search or a management services agreement. And I was always trying to perfect the presentation. Preachers practice their sermons again and again and again, and they want to have the right timing and the right empathy and the right emotion. Why? Emotion is important. People make decisions based on emotion, and that triggers it. And so you want to prepare yourself. So keep a journal of your ideas and necessary follow-up actions. I do a lot of content creation, so I'm constantly looking at periodicals, making notes in my journals. I'm really interested in how AI is going to impact the workplace. I'm really interested in so many things that relate to improving your career, and I'll be sharing those with you in these sessions. So keep a journal and take every opportunity to enhance your story. When you've done a lot of presentations over the years, you're still good at it, but that's still not the same as an interview. Very few people do more than about 25 or 30 interviews in their entire career. That's not enough to become really a super jock interviewer. So what you have to do is take every opportunity to think about how you can present your ideas more effectively. Okay? I got this note the other day, and one of the great joys is that when one of your clients gets a job, and you said, after a 10-month search following a layoff, this guy was a system COO, and he recently landed a CEO job in a larger organization, and it's a key position. He said, I worked harder to win this job, to beat out my competitors than any other job I've ever had. It was that hard. It's that competitive. And he said, I prepared more for the last job interview than I did for the last most important final exam at university. He said, this was really incredibly difficult, but I kept at it and I worked hard because I realized that I had to be at the top of my game. Okay, let's apply what we're talking about now to a specific position. Let's talk about a senior VP of Ops, $475,000 base. Incentive is 50% of base potential. Lucrative benefits with matching It's a top 10 industry organization. It is a succession search. So in 3 years, you will be that have the opportunity, if you've done well, to take over this $210 million growing business. And you at this level will have enterprise-wide responsibility. So that's the basic scenario. They're looking, the CEO who's there, who plans to retire in 3 years, wants somebody who can build strong relationships with the team. He wants somebody who has a reputation for honesty and delivering on commitments. He wants somebody who can develop a leadership transition plan for his retirement. What will be his or her priorities? In other words, how are you going to replace me? How are you going to move me to the sidelines? He wants to hear that because that's going to tell him a lot about the maturity and the respect that the younger person has who's taking over his job. He wants his 25 years of work experience respected and preserved whenever possible. Now, you and I both know things change, and they change dramatically. I was the first director of Life Flight at Herman Hospital. But today, if you were looking for some of my accomplishments and the things I did all those years ago, you'd have to have a pinhead, and you might find it in one corner. So once we move on, we realize that things change. All we want to do is lay the right foundation and be successful for the future. But he wants his work respected and preserved whenever possible. It's his ego. This is his life's work. So that may not be entirely practical or reasonable or appropriate, but you know what? It's what he wants. So as a candidate here, you've got to figure out how to address that over and over with the board and this CEO. Now, the margins for the organization are good, but there's economic uncertainty, as you've all noticed, and regulatory change, it's pending, and the competition are real threats. So you've got to be ready to address that. The rest of the backstory. The previous executive who had this senior VP job was pushed out based on style, relationship conflicts, failure to meet targets. So you need to understand those issues. What specifically got that person pushed out? If you've got a research firm consultant, they should be able to tell you that and push them until they do. If it's an internal recruiter, just say, this is really important. I don't want to violate any confidence, but I do want to be able to address those issues to assure people that I'm not that individual. So you need to understand those issues. Now, as I said, the CEO plans to retire in 3 years. Demanding but respects exceptional performance and courtesy. So you have to be able to produce. You have to be respectful that he is in charge. This is his life's work. And he expects you to be courteous, and he in turn will treat you that way. Now, he likes attention to detail in his operations people. He likes good follow-up, and he likes people who can build relationships. Now, that's not a head scratcher. That's just something that people don't pay attention to. Now, he expects loyalty, but he also wants an executive to build effective relationships with his board. He knows that's important, but he expects you to do it in a way that's respectful of his position. He wants culture. He knows that the culture and customer service have been slipping. Part of that was because of the former senior vice president. He wants to see improvements here. He wants to see this next person to be able to show he can make the improvements. Okay, now there's been some union organizational stuff in the past, and one failed 3 years ago, but now there's evidence with all the friction that resulted from the senior VP leaving and all the conflicts he had, that there's evidence of a renewed interest in labor unions. So you're going to have to do that. The CEO believes that he is compromised because he's refused to approve raises. Why? Because he wanted to build up the days of cash on hand, something his board wanted to see him do. They currently have about 450 days, which is pretty good, but he wants to do more, and so he's not been approving raises. That could lead to unionization, so there's going to be some tension there that you're going to have to address in interviews. Finally, board members had pushed for this search as a catalyst to begin a journey of culture change, but they respect the tough balance between of being able to do that with the incumbent. Their preference, the board's preference, is an applicant who knows how to move forward and maintain a collegial balancing act and setting the table for future success. Okay, now in this job, based on what I've just told you, there's about 7 categories for our worksheet that you're going to need to consider. First of all, governance with the board and the CEO. That's going to be really important, critically important, and it's going to require some very nuanced, balanced answers. Operations, you got to perform against the business plan. There are other people in the organization that are upset that they're not being considered for the succession plan, including the CFO. So you're going to have to build relationships with your competitors. And that includes in the C-suite. And this is really important to build effective relationships. Just because you're the designated CEO in waiting for 3 years, a lot can happen in 3 years. You cannot afford not to build those effective relationships, and you're going to have to be able to talk how you're going to do that. Financial operations and meeting the budget. Really critical. The CFO has a really strong relationship with the board. If you're slipping there, if you're not taking care of your business and you're not meeting the details and you don't have a relationship with the CFO, that could cost you significantly. So be aware of that. Marketing, meeting the sales targets. Another, again, revenue is really critically important. Human capital, recruiting, improving morale, enhancing the turnover and retention rate, improving the compliance with the employees, and also dealing with some regulatory compliance issues. All of these things have to be addressed in the interview. Okay, before you go any further, everybody goes, well, I've done some of that and I know how to do that. Stop. You got to dig deep. Okay, this is not about being superficial and just kind of speak to that first level, because I'm just giving you a first level of the insight into the organization. Now I realize that what I've told you is maybe a lot more than some of these crappy recruiters will tell you, but you can't fight City Hall, so you have to learn how to dig deep, understand who you are, and then try to figure out the nuance and read between the lines. You must find the relevant points of entry. Now, what do I mean by a point of entry? You've got to be able to touch the buttons that the board chair, the financial chair, the chair of the financial committee, the chairman of the chief strategic planning committee. You've got to be able to understand what their needs are, what their concerns are, what their high points are, and touch those points to be able to connect with them in a meaningful way on those issues. And it also includes the CEO and the C-suite. So you've got to be able to touch the relevant points of entry with credibility, and you have to be able to do it with authenticity. Now, a lot of people struggle. Why? Because they were brought up never forget, it's not nice to brag about your success. Well, okay, I get that. But when you're in a job interview, you've got to be able to tell your story, and that is about bragging about what you've done. Now, there's a right way to brag and a wrong way to brag. And if you're talking about your success and wrapping it in stories and talking about how you feel that you can be of benefit to that organization, that's not the same thing as pounding your chest saying, "Me great. Hire me. I'd be great." So, don't. Parents do such a disservice to their kids when they tell them this. And so kids come up with this kind of belief that, oh my God, it's really not good to brag about myself. You know why so many people, so many interesting people who have good skills and have a good track record don't get hired and never get hired for the really best jobs that they want? It's because they can't brag about themselves, because they've been loaded up with this garbage from their parents that said, don't brag about yourself. It's all really bad. No, it's not all bad at certain times in your life. And so what we do is teach people how to tell their story, how to sell their story, how to tell interesting stories that make their challenges, to make their successes come off the page. And so that's what we do. We're really good at it, and we can help you become better at it. Now, one of the things that is going to be the driver in any interview, okay? Why would someone want to hire you? This is it. This is what it's all about. So you've got to take all those things we've been talking about before and to funnel them into this one single point. What are the points of entry? Why are they going to want to hire you? And you have to be able to bring your experience, to bring your data points, to bring your stories that wrap those data points so that they're memorable, so that it's memorable information. You've got to be able to do that. And that's something that a lot of people don't do in job interviews. And because a lot of people don't do it in job interviews, let me tell you something. You might want to consider maybe really enhancing your skill set here. Why? because it'll make a difference in how you're perceived. It is a market differentiator for you in the job interview because a lot of people aren't going to go to the trouble to do that. If you do it, you have a better chance than other people. Okay, let's talk about the core and categorical worksheet. I think this is, I've looked for years for ways to kind of explain it to people and to help them sort of organize their framework so that they can improve their interviewing skills. First of all, you have a category on the far left: governance, operations, C-suite relationships, financial operations, marketing, human capital, and compliance. Those were the 7 key issues we identified in this particular search. Now, what are your strengths with regard to those 7 categorical issues? Well, maybe you have a strength in relationships. Maybe you're really well known and respected for honesty. Maybe operationally, your attention to detail, your value of teamwork and how you build strong teams. Maybe one of your strengths is the focus on resources for customers and investors. In other words, that you're very customer facing, you're very customer oriented, and you will build strong relationships and increase revenue. Something like I began my career in sales in a situation like this is a really powerful statement. Another, when it comes to building a strong team, Southwest Airlines, early in its early years when it was so successful, it's now more of a big airline. But in the old days, they used to have this incredible culture that Herb Kelleher, one of the founders, created, and he said the employees come first, not the customers. The employees come first. The customers come second. If you have good employees, they'll take good care of your customers, and your customers will take good care of your investors. Well, my friend and colleague Britt Barrett, who's now at the University of Brigham Young at Port Provo and is a managing director over their healthcare administration undergraduate program, he wrote a great book called Patients Come Second. Drove the nurses freaking crazy because they always said, no, the customers come first, the patients come first. And he said, no, if you take good care of your patients, your employees, excuse me. If you take good care of your employees, they'll take really good care of your patients, and your patients are going to take really good care of your bottom line. And Brett, when he was allowed to put that philosophy in motion, his hospital was #1 across HCA in quality, in customer service, clinical quality, employee satisfaction, and physician satisfaction. So he put his employees first. That's an incredible message. And one of the things that people really struggle in job interviews, okay, is that they really don't want to brag about themselves. And so they sort of create this gauze or sort of this barrier that keeps them from thinking about all the things that they really do well, that they could do extremely well, where they can connect with the entry points with the various people that they're going to be interviewing with. That's what it takes. So what do you do to kind of break through that gauze that your mom and dad have wrapped your face in and said, oh, it's not good to brag. Look at what other people are saying. Look at what other people are doing. You can get great inspiration from what other people think about ideas and about things. Some of the things you do well, there's some other people who are incredible thought leaders and that maybe can inspire you to dig deep in your own life to be able to come together with a unique way of communicating your value. That's part of what I said earlier about you got to do your notes. You got to do your homework. You got to keep a journal. And can you say, well, I'll remember that? No, you won't. Trust me. I would tell you that. So let's talk about the most important thing, and that's stories. Now, most people get confused by this. Stories aren't necessarily, once upon a time, I became a CEO, and I had a lot of people opposed to me, and I slayed. I killed the dragon. I killed the damn dragon. Okay, and so a lot of people they get lost in that sort of concept of what a story is. A story is a bridge. It's a way for people to connect with you. As I've said many times, and if you've heard my lectures in the past, a candidate once I asked him about his weaknesses. He said, maybe we better call my wife first. And he laughed and smiled, and everybody, when the board saw that video of him say that, they all laughed. They all leaned in, but why? We like him. He was that was kind of self-effacing. That's a story. When you talk about how you were able to turn around employee retention, you were able to turn around the turnover problem. If you talk about it and just create a scenario, man, we were really facing high competition. Our competitors were doing this, this, and this. And I sat down with the employees and they told me what the problem was. And we really worked together to put together a wonderful scenario of how we could cut down on our turnover. And it was very successful because we all came together as a group and we're committed to that common purpose. That's a story. Okay? You're just basically telling them what you did. But if you give it to them in a dry kind of format, they're not going to get it. They're not going to like it. And they won't remember it. If you're talking about improving your days of cash on hand, how did you do it? What did you say to motivate the team to get it done? That's the story. That's what's going to help people remember your accomplishments. So let's talk about how you can use our form. I put this together, as I said a minute ago, to help people sort of organize their thoughts and discipline themselves so that they can brag. Okay. It is important to use a critical eye when you're curating your examples for the core and categorical list. Your strengths, accomplishments, and stories, they got to be relevant to the prospective employer's needs. They've got to be those data entry points that we talked about, those points of entry. You got to touch it. You got to embrace it. You've got to be able to talk about what they think is important. Not you may know more than they do, and you may think they're off in the desert someplace, but you better address their needs or you won't be successful. Somebody else who is not as successful as you, not as talented as you, will get the job. Why? Because he was smarter than you and dealt with their points of entry. You got to customize this worksheet for each job. This is not a one and done event. And you know what? Sometimes you'll find in a really complex job, you're going to be talking to several disparate groups. Maybe the sales team, maybe the HR people or the finance people. They all have different issues and different needs. So you may have to adjust this questionnaire form for each group of interviews based on what you know the issues are. And when you're in a job interview, you're always asking questions. Customize this for each job. Now, I'm putting this up so you'll see it. This is available for you to download from my LinkedIn profile later today or first thing tomorrow. If you're a member, this will be available to you tonight. Excuse me, I'm sorry. It's available to our members tonight, downloadable from the membership page. And I hope that this is the revised edition, and I hope you'll download it. It's free to our members. If you're not a member, it's $49 a month. You get access to all of our training, and if you don't like it, you can drop out because there's no contract. We hope to be able to earn your support and keep you informed about careers and development. But in this one, the first thing you do is list I'm looking at it because we put it up here to display. List your signature strengths in each category. And in this category, maybe operations, maybe finance, maybe sales, it may be marketing, maybe human resources. What are your signature strengths in each one of those areas? And then you list your, the significant accomplishments with each one of those strengths up here, and pick some interesting ones that are relevant for this employee. And then in this next category, select examples of stories that you can tell. Make notes. Think about this carefully and deeply, okay? Don't just, okay, I did this. Okay, that's good. I got one story. Okay, done. No, be more intentional. Be more thoughtful. Does this really punch their point of entry? Does it hit that button? Is it really relevant to them in a way that's meaningful and that will resonate, that will show that you're empathetic and that you get them? And as it goes through, you have others here, and it's about, what are your weaknesses? What questions would you ask? What questions do you hope to God they don't ask you? Be ready. They probably won't ask them, but guess what? Clients tell me again and again, John, they didn't ask me any of those questions that I was scared to death they would. But you know what? Because I was so prepared, I was so confident that I just felt really in control of the interview, and I was making the points I wanted to make. So when you download this, if you become a member and download this form, and you will be able to see that this can really help you prepare for a job interview. Now, what's the big common mistake? Everybody thinks, well, I'm pretty good at what I do, so I'll just go in there and just be pretty good at the interview. That's not good enough. It's a common mistake. People just drop out because they don't deliver the best. The Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl because when it counted, they were not just good enough, they were the best. Good enough is not good enough in a very competitive job market. Please listen. Please, I don't say this to be the voice of God. I say this because I know how frustrating it can be when you lose out on a job you really, really wanted. When you lose out on a job that, God, you need, because you're worried about paying the bills, you got taxes due, and you don't want your car repossessed, or you don't want your kids kicked out of private school because dad didn't pay the bill. So I understand this. So we are all about helping people be the best they can be in a job interview. Good enough is not good enough. Now, the big problems in a job interview, applicants simply do not take the time to do a deep dive into their performance and accomplishments. And I'm bringing this back up again because this is a recurring theme we see over and over again. Under pressure, they produce examples of mediocrity, stories that are less than compelling. It's just about filling in the blanks, checking the box. No, it's about a superb performance. It's about delivering the best performance you're capable of producing. That's why teams like Kansas City win the Super Bowl. Now, San Francisco's a great team, but they did not perform when they had to. Patrick Mahomes did. And so think of yourself as, listen, don't think of yourself. This is a reality. It's very, very competitive, very competitive. So be sure that you are doing a deep dive and getting everything you need to do to be successful. Most executives go into job interviews conflating their ability as a leader with their ability to convince an employer, and that's a huge mistake. Okay? I'm glad you're a good leader. That gives you the experience and the metrics and the experience that you have to communicate. But just because you've done that doesn't mean that they should hire you. You've got to convince them. Just doing that, it doesn't work. That's a big, big mistake. So a lot of people make that mistake. So differentiate your brand, your candidacy, your ability, your leadership from the competitors you have, the 100 to 200 people that also want that job. Now this, I think, is a sad, sad truth. Most job applicants are really twice as good as they think they are. God, John, what do you mean by that? Candidates go in, and because they don't prepare, they don't think deeply about some of their successes, they just come in and check the boxes. The fact is, most of the people that I've seen in my 27 years of a global executive search, I've seen some incredible people. Their resume just resonated with pizzazz. They knew they did some good things. But when they came in for the job interview, they were just mediocre in communicating their value and communicating what they did. They'd been listening to mama and daddy who said, it's not nice to brag. They didn't get prepared. They were much better than they performed. And that's a sad truth. And guess what? It happens hundreds, if not thousands of times each week across this country. So what are some important steps for you to go forward to kind of be more foundational for you to succeed? You got to understand your value. You got to dig deep to understand what their needs are. You must believe in yourself. You must be disciplined. You must be prepared. You must take this so seriously. You must rehearse. You must revise. And you must deliver. And that's all you have to do. You just have to do those things. If you need help, if you have questions, you can reach me at john@johngself.com. Or you can schedule a free 30-minute video or telephone consult at johngself.com. It's at the bottom of our page. And I hope that this will be helpful to you. This information is helpful to you. If you're a member, we're going to have it on our page later tonight, so you can download it. And I hope that you'll join us again. I'm off tomorrow. I'm traveling on business, but we will have Career Live Friday morning at 7:30 a.m. And so we hope you'll join us then for Career Live. So thanks very much. And let's see what else. Oh, forgot that. 11 a.m. on Friday, we'll be answering your questions about career, about job search, about interviews, about references. And by the way, one of the key things that we'll be delivering to our members, is a brand new networking worksheet. So we hope that you'll be able to join us. We hope that you'll become a member. You get discounts on coaching. And if you don't want one-on-one coaching, if you want sessions like this, we're here every week providing you content on a live basis. And if you're a member, you can get it on a restream. Thanks so much, everybody. It's been great to have you around. We hope to see you soon.